Welcome, everybody. The football room is now open. This week, me and James Foster are jumping into the scouting combine. We're giving you our biggest winner and our biggest loser from the week to let you know which prospects made themselves a little bit of money down here in Indianapolis. Make sure you're following us each on Twitter as well as checking out the A to Z NFL Film Room here on YouTube. And we are also streaming on A to Z NFL Fans on Facebook and A to Z Sports NFL on Twitter. Welcome in. The football room is open. Welcome back, everyone, to the football room. We are open for business. The 2024 Scouting Combine is in the rearview mirror, and that means the 2024 NFL Draft is closer than ever. My name is Destin Adams. I'm a Colts beat writer and NFL draft analyst here at A to Z Sports, and I'm joined by my man, James Foster, Mr. X's and O's himself. James, how are you doing today?
Doing great. It's that time of year where shift our focus briefly for a week to free agency after spending months diving into the draft. So it's good to get back into some NFL tape and then back to the college film hard.
It is a good year to need a safety in free agency, huh?
Yeah. Everybody's releasing their safeties, it seems like. Did Justin Simmons just get released?
Literally like 2 minutes ago. So, I mean, if you are an all-pro, Pro Bowl safety in today's league, you're not safe. You're not safe, is what we're learning. And it's a bad safety draft class, so it just kind of like levels out, I guess. But, man, I'm waiting for Derwin James to get released next. I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got one safety in my top 50. Actually, I have two because I just moved Cooper DeJean to a safety. So yeah, two safeties in my top 50. If you're a safety needy team, I think you can grab a veteran on the free agency market.
I definitely have to go through how many safeties I have in my top 50 eventually, but we'll get to that another day. We are going to dive straight into the scouting combine and our thoughts and what we saw. We are each going to be giving you guys today our biggest winner and our biggest loser that we saw participate in the scouting combine, and for whatever reasons we have, they're a winner or they're a loser. So James, I think we should start with the bad and we should work up. I feel like that's just going to make it a more positive ending for everybody. So I'll let you start with your biggest loser of the 2024 NFL Scouting Combine.
All right, so I did a winners and losers video individually on the channel. So I'm going to try to go with different players for this episode. I would say my biggest remaining loser, and I hate to do this to you, Destin, but it's got to be Troy Franklin. Listed in the 180s in college, comes in at 176. Runs a 4.41, which is the new 4.5, as they say, and it just didn't really look natural in the position drills. The gauntlet drill was a little bit too back and forth for me, for my taste. I got to say that, personally, his grade isn't lowering or anything on my board. Still got him right around that top 50 range. But I think, with what some other players did to help themselves, like Xavier Worthy, Ricky Pearsall, I think that Troy Franklin, definitely not a winner, and would probably classify him as a loser for me.
Yeah. Oregon is just a bunch of liars. Putting that man at 6'3" for him to come in below 6'2", never ideal. So I mean, I feel like it was almost like he was going to be a loser for me coming out of the combine right away when that happened, because him being 6'3" with
they set him up
exactly because him being 6'3" at that skill set was such a draw to me as a person watching his game. So him coming in under 6'2", I mean, it may not sound all that different, but 6'1" and 6'3" in the NFL are very different. So I mean that started out rough for him, and I definitely think this is such a deep receiver class, and there's so many guys that improve their stock that Troy falling behind there, it's going to hurt him. I'm very interested to see if he can still slide into the later end of the round one because of how many receiver needy teams there are. Just because of how deep this class is, though, like I am really concerned. I still had him falling in at 32 to the Chiefs in my most recent mock draft, which was around what I had him going to before. So his actual draft range didn't fall too much for me in that. But I could definitely see him falling into round two, and he's definitely not receiver 4 on my big board anymore. He definitely dropped a few spots, and we'll get into that in a future episode. But yeah, it was not a great day for my guy Troy. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. For me, my biggest loser comes from the other side of the ball, and a guy that isn't too small. He's actually a bigger dude, and it's going to be defensive tackle T'Vondre Sweat. T'Vondre had an incredible time at the Senior Bowl, really improved his stock, really impressed teams with how he moved at his size. Elected not to weigh in at the Senior Bowl. He did get that done here at the Combine. He comes in at, I believe it was 366. Which not a bad weight for him, to be honest. So to start out, it was pretty solid. Now the problem was he told everybody who would listen during interviews during the week that he was going to shock people with how he tested. He let it be known that he even made jokes about him running in a 4.4, 4.5 40. Obviously, that wasn't expectations. But then I feel like he went out there. And just about every drill, he's consistently running the slowest time. He's consistently not putting up times that even put him in a semi-athletic build for his size. So it's interesting for me now because in today's NFL, there are certain positions where I feel like athletic profiles matter more than others. And because he is trying to project into this defensive tackle that can be both a pass rusher and excel in the run game, I feel like this hurts him. I feel like there were a lot of rumblings that he could swing into the end of round one prior to the scouting combine. But after this, I'm concerned that T'Vondre is going to be back to where I had him before the Senior Bowl, and that's like mid to late second. Because I just don't know in today's NFL if teams are going to spend that high of draft capital on a defensive tackle that just does not test well athletically going forward. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there because I think T'Vondre still impressed teams in interviews from everything I heard. He's still a very lighthearted, hilarious guy when we got to talk to him at the podium. But testing came in, and I feel like he set himself up for failure a little bit with how he played it up to everyone that would listen. So to see him test so poorly was shocking to me after he decided to get people's hopes up.
Yeah, I would honestly say that if I had to guess right now, there's a better chance that he goes in round 3 than he goes in round 1. I think for someone that's probably going to play nose tackle, like you can live with not the best testing. Normally it's for like more of a pass rushing get upfield 3 technique type where like you really want to see those elite explosive numbers and agility testing and stuff like that. But if it's like a gap plugger type of defensive tackle, they don't necessarily need to be the best athletes, but they need to be NFL caliber athletes. And people say like T'Vondre Sweat running a 5.27 and like a 26-inch vertical. That's impressive for someone that's 366 pounds. Well, opposing running backs aren't going to like get the ball and then be like, oh, well, this guy's 366 pounds. So even though I can easily outrun him, like it is still impressive that he can move like this for his size. So I'll like give him some leeway. You have to be able to make plays in the backfield. You have to be able to get upfield. Like you see that on his tape a lot of times in pass rushing reps where he's able to beat the hands, knock the hands down. He's actually like really polished technically as a pass rusher, but then he doesn't have that second or even first gear to get upfield and actually turn like a pass rushing win into, forget a sack, a pressure. So yeah, I think that he's he's a fun player to watch and kind of a fun story, but when it's time to get real and actually project like how is this guy going to impact your defense, it's hard for me to see teams valuing that in the top 50.
And I'm still shocked that he decided not to do the bench press after testing poorly agility wise. Like, at least go out there and put up your strength, right? Like, I was shocked he didn't do that. But maybe him and his team just felt like there was nothing to prove in that area, so they decided they didn't have to do it. But I guess no one on tape watches T'Vondre Sweat and says, man, that guy is weak. So I guess it'll be fine. But I would have loved for him to at least go out there and just kill one drill, just for it to be there. And bench press is usually the last number that comes in from testing. So it would have been just a little cherry on top of a pretty poor afternoon otherwise. But we will move over to players that we felt like were the biggest winners. James, I'm going to let you go first again. So who was the player that you felt like helped their stock the most? This is the biggest winner of the 2024 Scouting Combine.
I'm going to go on the offensive line and say Wisconsin center Tanner Bortolini. So comes in at just over 6'4", 303 pounds. He does have very short arms at 31 and a half inches, but just going to read you some percentiles here. 10-yard split, 99th percentile, 40-yard dash, 92nd percentile, shuttle and three cone were each 97th percentile. And then he was 85th and 86th in the vertical and the broad jump. So really outside of arm length, it's everything that you could want for a center prospect. And I feel like that showed up on his tape, especially the short shuttle and the agility testing. That's showing your ability to slide laterally and mirror pass rushers. And you would see Tanner Bortolini on tape be able to punch and then slide for like 4 yards with a three tech or a nose tackle that's trying to get outside his shoulder and rush the quarterback. I think that he has a very high floor in pass protection because of what he can do with his lower half. Not the most powerful run blocker, not really going to move people off the line of scrimmage or anything like that. But you look at this center class, assuming that Graham Barton isn't a center. It seems like Jackson Powers Johnson and Zach Frazier are probably the top two. I think after that, it's kind of wide open. A lot of people like Cedric Van Pran, and contrasting him, like his short shuttle was 12th percentile, which, has proven historically to be one of the most indicative and kind of sticky numbers from the combine to projecting to NFL success. So I think that center 3 spot is wide open, and Tanner Bortolini has a good chance to be the third center off the board.
I'm a big Tanner guy. I have been hoping and praying that he is a guy that the Colts can grab early day 3, because Ryan Kelly's getting up there in age. He has another year left after this before he's going to have to get paid again and could retire even. So I felt like a guy like Tanner come in, be the backup center right away, let him develop behind Ryan for a year. It was a really good combine week, though. It was a really good combine week for Tanner. I'm really interested to kind of see how that all plays out now, because I still have him in that 4th round range, but a good center is hard to find sometimes. So if teams saw that week,
and he's got starting experience at left guard, center, right guard, and right tackle. So even just in a plug and play situation, he's got some positional versatility too.
We're definitely gonna have to see if he played himself into the late end of day 2. On my board, he still is going to have a 4th round grade. I think there's still a little bit of rawness there that's probably going to need to get a little bit more coaching at the next level. But I think he has all the tools to be successful at the NFL level, and I'm excited to kind of see where he ends up going, even if it's not where I had him mocked before. Definitely a good week for him. For my biggest winner, I was between two guys, one on the offensive side, one on the defensive side of the ball. But I'm going to go with edge rusher Dallas Turner. Didn't even have to do all of the events because this dude started out with a bang and was an absolute freak. Dallas Turner came out, crushed the broad, crushed the vertical, and then absolutely knocked the 40 out of the park. I think he's the biggest winner overall because there was this argument amongst most people of the tier one edge rushers, there's three of them. Who's going to be the first off the board? Everyone thought there could be different guys. I think Dallas Turner put that to bed. I think a guy as productive as Dallas Turner was in college, paired with how well he tested, and I'm told that he really did well in interview settings as well. I think this is the edge rusher one, and I think he's going to have an argument to be the first defender off the board altogether. He's a top 5 guy on my big board. And I think he is the only guy in this edge class that I see a realistic path to being a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL at his highest potential. And I think those guys are valuable. And even in this super, super deep offensive class, I feel like Dallas Turner has a chance to be that special that a team is going to take him high. And I'm interested to see where he ends up going. But because I think the offensive skill set could still put him down the board a little bit, but I think him and Tyrion Arnold have really good chances to be the first defender off the board. So we'll see how it works out. But just to explain how freaky this guy was, a 40 and a half vertical, which going through some of the guys that that was the highest vertical of any edge rusher at the combine. Mm-hmm. Comes in for the broad jump. Is tied for second with a 10'7" broad jump. Only guys ahead of him are Jalix Hunt and Chop Robinson. So Chop Robinson was looked at as this just athletic phenom coming into this. This is the only event that they both did that Chop beat him at, and it was by 1 inch. So that's pretty impressive. And then 40-yard dash comes out. Chop runs a 4.48 in the first group. Everyone's buzzing about it. Dallas has to wait to run with the linebackers, so we had to wait almost a couple hours between takes. Comes out, runs a 4.46, 0.02 seconds faster than Chop. Dallas Turner just gives you everything on the defensive line. I think I have Dallas Turner with a higher overall grade than I had Will Anderson at last year. I'm excited to see where Dallas Turner ends up because I really do think he cemented himself as the number 1 edge, and in my opinion, should be the first defender off the board.
Yeah, I had Dallas Turner in my like expected positive section, confirmed priors kind of where like his grade didn't raise for me, but obviously an impressive performance. It's just I was kind of expecting that, so I'm not going to double credit it. But I mean, I can't argue with calling him a winner. I even think the most impressive number that you didn't even mention is the over 34-inch arms and the 83-inch wingspan, which, you know, he's someone in college who won a lot with a long arm and a bull rush. And if you're going to, you know, if that's going to translate to the NFL, there's really 3 things that I would look for. I want long arms so that you can establish first contact. You need to be explosive, which obviously Dallas Turner is. And then I even think being short can play to your advantage. You know, his height is 24th percentile for edge rushers. And some people might look at that as a bad thing, but you know, the saying low man wins exists for a reason. If you're trying to move someone backwards, it helps to have that lower natural leverage. So, I mean, I really think that, and even, you know, coming in heavier than he was expected to weigh in at, it's crazy that, like, you know, 247 pounds is now viewed as a good weight for an edge rusher. But yeah, I mean, I think that Dallas Turner basically did everything he could have to help himself outside of running the 3-cone. For a while, I had Jared versus edge 1, but you know, I agree with you. I think that Dallas Turner is the only one in this class that has top 5 edge potential. I think Jared Verse is more likely to be just kind of a solid, like, high end number 2 edge. And then Leatu Latu, difficult player to know exactly what to do with. Kind of like the opposite of Dallas Turner, where he isn't this crazy dynamic athlete, but where Dallas Turner doesn't necessarily have his hand technique all the way down, Leatu Latu, has been training his cross chop since he was born. So I think I was listening to Move the Sticks podcast, and they were kind of drawing the comparison to Aiden, like Dallas Turner and Leatu Latu is like Aiden Hutchinson versus Trayvon Walker in a way. And it's not like a 1-to-1 comparison, but it'll be an interesting dynamic there. And I think, I would definitely put my money on Dallas Turner being the first defender off the board.
Yeah, I mean, that comparison's interesting because I'm assuming because of rawness that Trayvon Walker in this situation is Dallas Turner, though, correct? Yeah, so
because like Turner doesn't, Turner's got like the long arm, the bull rush. He'll kind of chop a little bit, but you're still, he still has to. There's still some development that needs to happen, for him to become a top 5 edge. Like if I'm taking week 1 over under on pressures, I might go with Jared Verse or Leatu Latu in this class. But if I'm going year 2, week 1 pressures, I'll probably take Dallas Turner. So it's like, to me, it's a little bit more of a gamble, but I think if you're taking an edge rusher top 12, you want someone that has that ceiling of being like a true number 1 game changing type of pass rusher.
I mean, it's also interesting just because like when I say that I feel like Dallas Turner separated himself from Verse and Latu in this class. I mean, Verse had a way better testing day than I thought he would. Personally, like I feel like he really impressed. And the thing with Latu, I feel like all his numbers hit the benchmarks that they needed to, first and foremost.
Latu had a good week.
I was texting with Latu and Dallas Turner's personal trainer, actually, and it's the same guy who does both. And he was giving me just some insider scoop on what he thought their numbers would be, just so we could test, we could see how they lined up. We were just having some fun with it, and every drill that came out, like these guys improved on from what he thought they would do. So like that's good first and foremost for these guys. But I think the big thing with Latu is that we're not going to get to see maybe ever, unless teams just release any of that information after the draft, possibly, is the medicals were going to be the biggest thing for Latu. If he got a green light with medicals at the scouting combine, then his draft stock is significantly higher than it is if that knee is struggling, right? So we'll see kind of like where that falls. Usually that information isn't going to come out until after, if he falls in the draft a little bit, and then people can say, yeah, the knee was an issue for teams. And then you're going to know that there was a flag that a lot of people got in these medicals at the scouting combine, because that's really where a lot of that starts, because you can assume where everyone's legs and knees and everything is from how things ended in college and talking to people that had tested them in college. But until you get the medicals right in front of your face, like every team gets at the scouting combine, unless you're Caleb Williams and you don't want to give it to every team, usually this is where they get that information. So if Latu got the green light there, obviously he'd be a big winner for the week as well.
And I think a couple more notes on each of those players. I think Leatu Latu looked the most natural doing that the towel drill, where you have to like dip underneath, keep your shoulder inside the
Braylon
hoop.
Trice did not
I thought
look like natural in that drill. Did not look natural in that drill.
Yikes. Like Leatu Latu, even though I don't think he did a 3-cone, to me that's just as valuable because it's showing your ability to dip and bend around the corner. And I think conversely, Jared Verse, definitely his testing was impressive in some areas. 33.5-inch arms is a little bit longer arms than I expected. I was worried he might be in the 32 range, and had like 35-inch vertical, 127 broad. That's 65 and 89th percentile. The one telling number with Jared Verse, though, is the 7.31 3-cone, because he is like really stiff when he has to rush on the high side and try to bend. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of like a mixed bag for Jared Verse. Probably overall a slight winner, but yeah, I mean, going back to Dallas Turner, clear in a way out of the top guys, like the clear winner from the combine.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, even in a money standpoint, getting drafted in the top 10 opposed to the top 20 at times, it could mean a good amount of dollar signs heading your way opposite. But hey, guys, this has been our biggest winner, our biggest loser. We even gave you some extra names there. Instead of just giving you two each, we talked about two other edge rushers to give you guys a little extra credit if you decided to show up today. That is going to be it for the Football Room this week. Next week, we will be back with another Draft Tank segment where I will step into the Draft Tank. We were a little bit late because of traveling back from the Combine on getting this one out. We wanted to get you our thoughts from the Combine first. The Draft Tank will be back next week, and I will be stepping in onto the hot seat to see if my man James here is going to buy what I'm selling, or if I'm just going to be on an island all by myself and on that take. So it'll be fun to see where that comes out. But everybody, you have been listening to The Football Room. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as here on our YouTube channel. We are also live streaming on Facebook on A to Z NFL Fans, and we are streaming live on Twitter at A to Z NFL, A to Z Sports at NFL on Twitter. Make sure you guys are following each of us on Twitter, and we will be back next week for more NFL draft coverage. Thank you, and the Football Room is closed.